So if I were to give my younger self a piece of advice, it would be to be bold, to be confident in who I am, and be okay with making mistakes. Throughout my life, I've learned so much more from my mistakes than I have learned from my quick successes. And so that would be the thing I would say to my younger self, is to be okay with that opportunity to fail in order to succeed more. I just want to thank you all for having me here tonight. I'm really honored. And after hearing everybody's reason for picking their name tags and what have you, it puts a little pressure on me. I hope I'm bold enough to give you a really good presentation, and I'm really excited to share my theories. So the first thing I want to talk about before I get into answering that question is a little bit about the cold, hard statistics. So unfortunately, Canada hasn't had real statistics, and our stats department doesn't do much lately. But the Bureau of Labor Statistics in the US, 11 years ago, and this was from a 2014 study, 63% of men in the US reported doing household activity, while 84% of women did. And this is why I'm showing you this. I want to put a little context around the question of women can have it all. In 2014, 11 years after that initial study, it moved up just slightly. 65% of men and 83% for women did household work. So the change wasn't that great. And when you equate that to time, it was a 9-minute reduction in housework for women in general in the US. So the reason I put those up is not to say something negative about where we have potential and how we can move forward, but to put into context the expectations that so many women have about what they can do and what they can't do, and to help put into context what I'm going to talk about. So before we get into can you have it all, you have to define your reality. You have to understand what your reality is in the context in which you're defining it. So looking at what you want out of life, your relationships, your career, and most importantly, yourself. A lot about all of you in the room, when you picked your labels or the titles that you picked, it has a lot to do about how you see yourself. I heard women say, I'm bold, Samantha, but I'm too bold. And I wanted to say to you, don't ever think you're too bold, or don't think you're not bold enough. The fact that you walk out every day and you do what you do, that's your boldness. The fact that you're able to get up every morning and know that society defines you in a negative way as a black woman or as a woman or as a mother, that's your boldness, that you walk through that every day. So don't take away from that. Take it and embrace that. Now, there's some caveats. All of us have mentors and role models, and there's some things that I often say to people who say they look up to me or to anyone else. Don't aspire to be someone else. I had a young man sit with me and he said he wanted to be the next Bill Gates. And I said a couple of things I said to him as a guiding principle, your role models are just that, they're guiding principles, right? You learn from your role models, but don't mimic them. So go look at it this way. The experiences I have in life, the path I've had in life, the hurdles I've had in life, the chances I've had in life, the support I have, the network I have, the family I have, the people who love me, all are mine. You don't have them. So if you mimic what I have done, the outcome will be different because your framework, your context is completely different from mine. So when you have role models, look to them as that, as role models that you can emulate, but you can't mimic. There's only one of them and there's only one of you. So remember the idea, and this is my last point on this, is that you can't recreate it first. You can't be the first Oprah Winfrey because you know what? She's already there. You can't be the first Bill Gates because you can be the first person who does what you choose to do and who you choose to be. So my reality. I am inherently an introvert. I am a spokesperson, public. I've been on television, I've done blogs, I've done all that stuff. But at the end of the day, and I'm going back to the idea of you saying that you're not bold enough or whatever, I'm not inherently an extrovert. And yet I get up, I do things, I talk, I speak. I have the president of our multi-billion-dollar company that comes to my office and says, how'd I do on my speech? And I have to stand there and tell this man who can fire me in the blink of an eye, what he did right, what he did wrong, but I am an introvert. I am very self-critical and extremely self-conscious at times. I wear the brightest of colors. I look, for all intents and purposes, like the most bold and confident and outrageous individual you'll ever meet. And yet, if you were to spend 5 minutes with me, as I hear my dear friend Yvette go, I am so self-conscious. I actually had one of my bosses say, you spend so much time criticizing all the things you did wrong and so little time celebrating your successes that it must be draining. And that's who I am. But you know what I am? I'm very shrewd. I know my weaknesses. I know my strengths. I know that I'm an introvert. I know I have to prepare. I know I can't eat before I speak. I know all that about myself, and it makes me a stronger human being because I'm shrewd enough to understand, take the initiative to work within the constructs of who I am to be successful in what I do. I'm an excellent communicator. I have been writing since I was about 7 years old. I started writing poetry. I started writing stories, songs. My children, I wrote them songs throughout their little years up until recently. My daughter, I wrote a song for her. That's what I do. That's my passion. I'm very fortunate to have found my passion very young in life and have been able to translate that passion into a job, into a career, into success. I am black, as you can see. Every morning I get up, every night I go to bed, my skin doesn't change. Every day as I walk through life, I recognize that people see that first when I walk through into a room. Every time I go to an event, every time I go to a media event, and people are looking for the director of communications at Purolator, and they look past the black woman, right? I remember that. Every time I go to an event, I host St. Lucia. I host in St. Lucia, and I'm the only person on the resort that's black that doesn't work at the resort. Every morning I got up when I was in St. Lucia, and every morning they knew exactly who Karen White-Boswell was because she was the only black person on the resort who didn't work at the resort. I am a black woman every day. I'm a mother. I'm a mother of 2 beautiful young black girls, and every day my responsibility is to help them grow up to be strong black women, to remember that there are struggles, to remember that they're black, but to remember how wonderfully strong and capable they are, they will be, and they have come from. So that is my role. That is my goal in life. I am a woman who laughs, cries, gets angry, and I do get angry, ask my husband, is afraid, and takes on the world. I get up every morning and I have to take on the world. Whether they choose to put it on me or not, I take on the world every morning. Every day as you walk through life, all the challenges, all the adversities, all the tears, you got to take it on. So what is it? When you ask if we can have it all, you have to define what it is, what you want it to be. And we have to know what's it for ourselves. Again, going back to the idea of you can't recreate the first, you can't be Oprah Winfrey, you can't be Bill Gates, you can't be any of those people. You have to create it for yourself. Each one of us has to decide what it is. We talked about it at the tables just now. You have to decide for yourself what your it is and then work towards it. And you know what? It changes all the time. All the time. So today it can be having the perfect hair. Tomorrow it can be molding a young human being, helping them to find their path in life. That it changes, and be okay with it changing. Now the question, can women have success? Yes, but not in the same way in abundance as men, and not yet anyways. Maybe to someday, and we need to challenge that. It is our role to have those voices, to stand up, to be bold, and share our voice, uplift others, use our voice to make that change, to make it that yes, we can have equal success, we can do what we want. And this is not to say that we can't be anything we want, but we need to recognize, going back to those statistics, going back to the reality of our lives, that society has really put on us so much more responsibility than they put on men. And I'll give you an example. My husband, for the kids, as long as they've been going to school, has always dropped them off at school. He works in the afternoon, and Yvette knows the story way too well, but he takes them to school every morning. And one day, God bless him, he forgot my daughter's lunch. So quite often he caters, and he literally caters for these 2 girls hot lunches. And he was running late, and I got a call at work. And the secretary, in her wonderful, kind voice was like, "Hello, Mrs. Boswell." And I said, "Oh, hi." And she goes, "Your daughter does not have lunch." And I said, "Oh, okay." She goes, "Do you not realize your children need to have lunch by 12 o'clock? I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden, as much as I knew that Dwight was supposed to have dropped off her lunch, I'm feeling guilty. I'm carrying the weight of what? Why am I feeling guilty? Because society says that it's my responsibility to make sure that child is fed. As much as they see that man come to school every day, run in frantically and drop off that lunch, and sometimes like, "Oh, it's so sweet, Mr. Boswell dropping off a French lunch for their daughter." But when I walk in, all of a sudden I'm the horrible mother that forgot the lunch. When he walks in, he's the hero that brought the lunch before she didn't have lunch for the day. That is the kind of limitation that sometimes we have to face. And we carry that guilt. We absorb that guilt. We look for that guilt so often in our lives. And so that's the reality of women in success. I go to events like even this, and I feel guilty because I'm not home with my children. I go and host events abroad, and I feel guilty because I'm not with my children, as my husband is right there. I make lists, line by line, numbered, itemized, dated lists for my husband when I go away on business trips because I feel guilty because he can't remember anything. That is the reality of women. The other reality of women is that we're sensual beings. And when we look at being success and having it, we need to be able to embrace ourselves, our sensuality, our very being. And that is something else that society doesn't allow us to do. Often, we're judged by society for being sensual beings or even acknowledging that sensuality in us. Many times, even when I had my kids, it took me years to get back to feeling like a woman, not just a vessel that was a resource for their milk, their sustenance, their care, but being a woman, enjoying me as a human being. And I know I'm here supposed to tell you about, how I got here. So what is it for me? What is it for me? And I have this saying, I've said it many times, and people at work know me for this very well. My shoes make me smile. My family makes me matter. And I'll walk over here, but I have what I call speaking shoes. And whenever I'm going to speak, I pick a pair of shoes that make me feel empowered. And the logic behind that is, and it's very basic, is I'm speaking and I feel nervous. I have a nice pair of shoes on. I look down. I get distracted from my nerves. I feel good, right? It's just that simple. And so even when I'm in meetings and someone's working my last nerve, I look down at my shoes and go, oh, okay, I also have my songs, and when I was in university, from my first year of university, I started playing Three Little Birds, Bob Marley. Every exam, every challenge, everything, I play that song. When I gave birth to my kids, this will show my age, I burned CDs, and I brought them with me to my delivery, and my sister was my DJ at my first delivery, and she played music throughout, and this was Three Little Birds was one of the key songs played over and over again when I was going through labor. And when I had my second child, I didn't have time to play the music, and I was so upset that I made my husband play it in the car on the way home with my daughter. So songs are a big thing, and I also write, as I said, I've written little songs for my daughters throughout their life, just for every little thing, even to get them to go to bed. And my hugs. So when I talk about my family makes me matter, that is the most important thing to me, is to be able to embrace my family, embrace my love for them every day. And that's one of the things that we started a tradition. My younger daughter was bullied a few years ago. And it got to the point, first of all, she wouldn't tell us. So we kept asking her why she was sad, what have you. And finally, dam broke, and she told us. And what I did was, she couldn't sleep. So she wasn't sleeping at night. She wasn't going to school. So we did a song we called the Butterfly Song. I said, what makes you happy? What makes you feel good? Butterflies. We wrote a butterfly song. And then what we did was every day when she was going to school, I would hug her. And we would kiss, and then I would blow her a kiss, and she would blow me a kiss. And I said, that kiss you will take with you as your strength and your love to know that we love you every day. And so that's my hugs. And so in my office, splattered throughout my office, nobody in the company can say they don't know what my family looks like, because my wall, if it was wallpaper, it would be covered with pictures of my family. So when you work my last nerve and you wonder why I don't go really crazy, and Jessica is one of the people in my office, so she knows well, I look at the pictures of my family and I remember what makes the most sense in my life. What matters most to me when I walk out that door of my office, I'm going home to people who love me, who are proud of me, who will mend me when I'm broken, and that's what keeps me focused. So my journey to me is one I think so many of us would identify with. I grew up with a family, a wonderful family who supported and loved me, and they were my role models. Looking out, I grew up in Canada. Looking out in the Canadian community, I didn't see a lot of people who looked like me. We weren't represented in media and television, so I needed to have my role models, for the most part, within my family, which is a good thing. But it would be nice to be able to see that in the broader community and the broader society that you live in. And so for a lot of things, as I was going through life, I became the first young Black woman to do so many things in my career path. And I had to create my idea of and definition of success for myself. And that goes back to the idea of being, my own first. And I really embraced that very young in life. And really, the whole idea of my drive and my desire, that impetus came at a fairly young age. And when I must have been about 7 or 8 years old, and I remember this so clearly because it was such an impactful moment in my life. My sister and I walking to school. Back then you walked as a kid, we walked to school together. And we went to Keele Street Public School in Toronto. You walk down the stairs, these deep stairs, and we're walking down in the winter, and this young child threw an ice ball at me, hit me in my mouth, and he said, "Go back to where you came from, nigger," and split my mouth open. Blood pouring out. My sister rushed me to the office, and again, I'm going to show my age. They had nurses in school back then. And the nurse, when I came in, said, "You people are always causing trouble." And two things came to my mind. I didn't do anything wrong. Why is she looking at me this way? And I belong here. And at that very young age, I decided that I would always walk into a room and prove I belong. I would always walk into a room and show them that I had done nothing wrong. And I stood by that, and I decided at that young age, and years over and over again, it was my revenge for whatever you've said, for whatever ignorance, whatever doubt you have about me. My revenge is not to hurt you. My revenge is not to take from you. My revenge is to be successful in all I choose to do in life, and turn back and look at you and say, you know what? In spite of your ignorance, in spite of your lack of faith in me, I have succeeded. And that is what has focused me. So Carlin asked me to give you some key points that I believe in. And the first one is embrace failure. And my mother is one of the most inspirational people for me. And she used to say to me all the time, when I was in university and decided, I didn't want to become a lawyer, she always said the same thing to me. And she always said, nothing beats a failure but the failure to have even tried. And that was her response. Every time something went wrong, she's like, well, you just try again, right? And the thing that I think is why it's so important to embrace failure is that we learn from failure. You look at a baby lies there and they try and flip over, and you watch them and they try and they try and they try and they keep trying. And they eventually learn to flip over, but they learn from failure. They learn to walk, they learn to talk, they learn to feed themselves, they learn to go to the bathroom, all from failure. Failure is what teaches us how to do things. And so the biggest issue around failure is not that you fail, but that you fail to see the value in it, or you look at failure as an insurmountable obstacle and you don't learn from it. That's the problem with failure, is not that you fail, it's how you deal with that failure, how you take that failure and meld it into something that you can use. Find your emotional armor. Find those things that you can draw strength from, and leveraging them in your day-to-day life. My strength are my speaking shoes, but most important, in all honesty, it's my family, the people I love, the purpose I find from friends and family, and being able to connect with those people that mean something to me. That's my emotional armor. That's what I carry with me every day. The hugs from my little daughter as I walk out the door every single day. That's my emotional armor. And when you find your armor, inspire others. You can call it pay it forward, giving back, whatever you wanted to call it, just do it. Share that with others. No matter what you think, none of you got to where you are today without someone else's help. So you share and pay it forward. And one of the things that this young lady, one time I was helping her, a young lady in Jamaica, and she said, "It's so nice that you're helping me." And the thing I said to her, this is what I truly believe it is, that we need to lift each other when we all fall. If we leave somebody behind, we've left a piece of ourselves behind. It's our responsibility to help others. Make someone smile every day. I have a team of 9 people, and I walk out of my office, walk around, and I look for the one person in the team that looks most down for the day, and I try and make them smile. And I think that you carry so much responsibility, and especially in a role as mine in the position of leadership, it's my responsibility not just to instruct people and to give them their jobs for the day, but also to make sure that they're coming to a place of quality and purpose. And so I put a lot of effort into making sure that my team is happy. And if I can make someone laugh or smile for the day, and every now and then I pop by Jessica's office and make her laugh a little bit, I think it's a good purpose for the day. It's just one thing I believe. And the other thing, flip side of the coin, when I'm having a bad day, or I feel like I'm just about to explode, I close my door, and I often, my team knows, I'll say to my team, I need to find my center, and they know that something's working my nerve. And I go in my office, I close the door, because I don't need to project that onto them. I don't need to share that negativity with them. What I need to show them is strong leadership and strong purpose. So I remove myself from the situation. And show people that you have real flaws and fears. I truly believe that as someone who other people look up to, as someone who people will look to for leadership, I also have to show them that it doesn't come without some chinks in the armor. It doesn't come without my fears. It doesn't come without me getting up in the morning and feeling like this day is just not going to go well. It doesn't come without me crying some days going, you know what, I've had enough of this. It doesn't come with that. It comes with a real human being. It comes with someone who doesn't feel bold all the time. It comes with someone who looks at themselves in the mirror and goes, well, I look like crap today. It comes with somebody who's real. It comes with somebody who's had hurdles and challenges, and that's me, and that's okay. And when you project that and help other young women and other women around you feel that it's okay to have those flaws and fears, you give them the power to be themselves and to embrace who they are. So, of all the things I've said, these are the 3 key tenets I have: is embrace failure, find your emotional armor, and inspire others.